Okay, so today we are going to answer a user's question, and it's also going to bring us into a topic we've been wanting to talk about, which is beef.
Yes, sir.
And sort of the futility of beef. So the question comes from a guy. His Instagram is done is bad news. He brought up a good question, and without getting into details too detailed, he went over an outline with a filled in throwy type of thing, and he covered the whole thing. He did everything the way that we've discussed the rules.
Sure.
Are supposed to be done. You cover the whole thing. Phil's go over outlines, but he got a bunch of blowback from doing this. So the guy's now dissing him and writing little messages and things like that. And so he asked the question. I thought it was interesting. He said, "Is he a real writer if he doesn't retaliate?" And my opinion, is yes. I mean, you don't have to retaliate. You don't have to play into that shit. I can understand that beef is a big part of the culture, and it's always been. I don't know if that it's part of the culture in a positive way, obviously, but it's there. It's a thing. It's like beef, racking, bombing. It's all there, but it doesn't mean you have to participate in it. And so I thought we could talk about just sort of some of the reasons why not participating in it would be a good move. I don't know. We could go off on a long tangent, but
Did we get any other details on this question?
Yeah, but I don't want to give too many details.
Okay, so without even
so I'll tell you, it was like an illegal spot. So I mean, one of my responses was, even though you followed all the technical rules of the game, when you go to cap somebody's piece or somebody's work on the street, there's other things that kind of come into play. So, I mean, when you say these are the rules that we, don't cap this with this and don't cap this with that, when it comes to like a spot on the street, it's unless it's a tag and you're going over it with like a fill in or something, you're sort of entering this kind of gray area because the person risked their freedom to put that thing on the street there. And then if you go over it, even if you do it properly, you're still kind of taking that spot from that person. So I could see potential issues coming up in that regard. So the way I would personally do it, number one, would be to not go over it, just, even if it's an outline, just leave it, find another spot. If you did end up in this situation and you decide to not retaliate, you may get some blowback from your boys or your people in your circle saying, oh, you punked out or whatever. But who cares about that?
who fucking cares?
Yeah, fuck them.
But so if there's two sides to this coin, right? If we want to look at it in the usual, we're not trying to, how do you say, reinvent the wheel here. If we were just going with the graffiti's ethics and background and what's the word we like to use instead of rules?
Guidelines.
Okay. If we were to just stick to the history, first I would ask, okay, as far as details are concerned, and this I'll give you my opinion after, but if we were to stick to those guidelines, okay, and that was it, and we were just sticking to that, first I would wonder, so regardless if this cat did fills over an outline, was this some kid who just came out the gate going over someone who's been around for 20 years and there was some fucking classic outlines on on a particular spot on the highway?
This specifically is not
not
kind of
that
situation.
Okay. So and then I would ask, well, was this 10-mile stretch of sound wall and he just decided to go over this one fucker?
No.
This is just a spot.
Yeah.
That only had enough room for one other cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, fuck. I mean, based on just what I've heard, pick another fucking spot first. Okay, but let's fuck what it could have been. This is what it is.
The kind of gray area, I think, kind of covers hey, somebody's probably going to get pissed even if you follow the rules. So I guess the lesson here is yeah, there's rules or guidelines in place.
Yeah.
But you should still use discretion. Like you said, if there's a Futura 2000 tag on a train.
Sure.
It doesn't matter if you go over it with a fucking 3,000 every color in the Montana fucking thing. It doesn't matter. You should just leave it there. It's a tag.
It. Yeah.
But like
rolling
if it's
artifact at that
Jimmy
time.
Jimbo 227 stock cap fucking quick color tag,
Right.
it's not the same.
Right.
So
Of course.
discretion is important. It doesn't, these hard set rules aren't really there. So let's just talk about this in terms of this already happened, and his question is, what does he do now?
Of course, you're still a real writer. That doesn't define who you are as a writer and what you're going to be. And this is a lesson you're learning. This is an experience you're fucking having, period. Now, if you are part of a big crew and these cats around you are saying things like that, like, don't be a punk, like, don't this, don't that, immediately I would say to myself, reevaluate the company you keep. That would be like my first, I can only base it on my experience because I remember feeling like that. Fucking somebody even used the same letters in the crew, even though it was a different crew, and it could have even come sooner. I'm sorry, it could have came before my crew in the timeline. I was so invincible and so young and so fucking you can't fuck with us. That shit got me so hot, and I'd always want to attack first and then think later. But now, if I were to look back at any of those kind of things happening, and they happened often, there was a lot of people I came across. None of that shit was a benefit in any way to me, my crew, to my career, to anything ever. Never. I can't think of one time where any of that shit mattered.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I was hoping we would get across in this, because it's one thing to be in the middle of it, and I'm the same way. Like when I was in the middle of it, I didn't take that shit in stride. I always fired back. Somebody slashed me, every time I came across their shit, I would slash it.
Yeah.
But, now with some perspective and a little distance between those various different beefs that I had, it's like you said, like zero was gained from it. Even if somehow somebody saw me, as like, oh, he's standing up for himself, and they respected me a little more. Even that doesn't mean shit to my life right now. Like
right.
None of those people in any regard have affected whether or not I can pay my bills, or like have good relationships with people, or feel good about myself. Like none of that shit makes the slightest bit of difference in my life at all. And if anything, when I look back on those times, I wish that I had just been like, wonder what this fucking guy's problem is. Like, I don't remember doing anything.
Yeah.
And just, I see my piece slashed. I should have just fixed it, or, whatever, because, I can think of one beef that just popped out of nowhere. And, it could have been a misunderstanding, like whatever happened to this guy. Like I probably went over something, or like how we've said in the past, like you go to a spot that's all dissed and shit. The person that was under there hasn't been to the yard in a couple months, and they don't even know that their piece was trashed before I went over it. And those kind of beefs could have started out of stuff like that. And there have been beefs. I remember I caught a spot on the freeway, and it was already all dissed, and there was a throwy over half of it, and there was tags over another half of it. So I was like, I'll just go over the tagged part. And so I'm driving down the freeway to get flicks, and the crew I didn't go over. I went over half of it that wasn't taken by a throwy,
right.
So I'm like, somebody already did it.
Right.
So they thought that I went up with that guy and dissed all my shit. And I was like, fuck, I don't want to have beef with this crew. Right. It was a well-respected crew. Mm-hmm. We worked it out. Phone calls were made, and it was like, hey, that's not what happened. And it was resolved. I mean, the point is, like, the beefs that I did participate in, all they ended up doing is getting more of my shit dissed, because the more fuel you put on the fire, I don't know what would have happened had I just been like, fuck it, I'll just fix my piece, move on. It's entirely possible that those people would have still continued dissing all my shit. But had I not fired back, maybe a lot more of my stuff wouldn't have gotten dissed,
Yeah. I think that what we've talked about before is like using that conflict as an opportunity to we've said it time and time again. It's just to expand and to test something else or to go somewhere else or paint further away in different areas and try new cities, not like running from it, but don't focus all your attention on that one spot. That's one way to look at it. But what you just said right now, I feel like it's like with any good conflict, which happens in the people you love the most or the people you've never met before. If you were to just get to the bottom of it and just kind of investigate a little bit, a fucking phone call, talk to some member of that whatever and figure out where the whole roots of like this whole, thing started, I bet we could resolve it almost every single fucking time before it ever gets to like a, will there ever be a simple way to diffuse shit like that? I mean, when it comes to just violence in general with fucking kids and schools and fucking crews and everything else. I don't know, dude. Like, but I could guarantee that in my experience, had I confronted an individual and we just had a conversation, I mean, if we could actually like stay that humble at that age, I know that's asking a lot as well. But if we could have just had a conversation, I'm sure any time that something like that came up, it could have been fucking put out fairly quickly.
Yeah. I mean, and nowadays it's not like how it was back then. In the 90s, we didn't have a connection to each other via social media, and it wasn't nearly as easy to get in touch with people. So you had to know somebody that knew somebody, or, this guy knows so-and-so from that crew. Like, can you get in touch with him and tell him I want to talk to him, or, but now it's just sort of like, some beef pops up, you could pretty easily, most people have social medias. There's a rare person that doesn't, but it's not as hard to get in touch with somebody. And like I said, with that issue that happened with me, it was a total misunderstanding. And one phone call was all that it took. Yeah. Like, what if I had drove by and went like, fuck these guys, and just started dissing all their shit? Right. Which is how a lot of this stuff happens. I mean, it's like these little misunderstandings. I would imagine a lot of beef starts where the person that technically started the beef didn't have any intention of doing that, and they just kind of either made a mistake, or like what I said, like the person that saw it as an act of beef took it the wrong way and then just ran with it, And so outside of getting your shit dissed, I mean, there's also like real serious, I mean, obviously that's kind of serious, but like in the scope of life, it's not serious at all. Like if somebody disses your shit, I mean, there's this whole thing like, I don't want to be disrespected. And that was one of the things that he said. And I can understand that. I had those same feelings when I was really knee deep in illegal graffiti, like this weird concept of respect and disrespect and how much importance is put on that. But when you really think about it, like, who gives a fuck? Like, if this guy doesn't respect me, I don't give a shit. Yeah. If you don't respect me, like, how is that affecting me at all? Respect isn't a currency that I can use to better my life. It's like, fuck it. Go ahead. Don't respect me. Just do your thing. I'll do my thing. We don't need to get upset over that. And it's like, but when I say that, I still understand that it's like a part of the culture. I mean, it's a part of, I'm not trying to say like, this whole idea of respect isn't part of the culture, but when you really look at it, does it matter? Like, if
it's because you have a clear perspective and like you see what's important in your life is why that particular thing is not at the top of your priority list. So the way that I would see it, and I agree with what you're saying, is that it's one thing to live your life this way, to be like, yo, that shit really is not essential to like what I'm doing today and how I'm building and how I'm growing in my circle and all that. However, being like the bigger man, as far as like the guy who is in that zone still, that is fucking everything to them, because going back, like half the time, it's not about that piece that got slashed. He didn't even like that piece. It's the root of that, right? It's the disrespect. It's not the piece. Fuck the piece. I could care less. Someone else will cap it. The city will buff it in a day. It's not about that. It's that you and me are eye to eye. You respect me. So it's like, even if we take on that mentality, I believe that's like, that's really not priority, the whole respect thing. Like, it's just whatever, okay? But if for this dude it is, you can meet him there and be like, all right, you know what? I didn't, we talked about this before. I didn't see it that way before. I get it. You're absolutely right. You didn't deserve that. And then move on. See, so it's just like he got what he needed. He feels like he's respected now. So, but it doesn't take away from like your clarity and like your conscience and like where you're at today as far as like how meaningless or how petty and futile that really is to you right now, right? So totally I get what you're saying as far as that's not top priority. That's not what's fueling this fire today. However, it is life. It is in the culture. And it is what, I don't want to say, it is what a huge portion of people in this culture are fueled by. Like that's definitely where it gets started. You know what I mean? Like when I was really young, I wanted all the older kids to respect me.
Yeah.
So what did that mean, right? But yeah, I feel like it's a tricky conversation to have.
Yeah.
The more you put things in perspective and you realize what's really mattering at this moment.
Yeah, and when I say that, I mean like, that's my personal take on it, and I feel like it's a healthier way to look at things.
Definitely.
But like, I'm not trying to say that you, whoever you are out there, needs to be this way. And I'm not saying that the culture needs to change to adopt to this kind of this sort of idea. I still feel strongly when I look at the culture that it's a bigger priority than I think it needs to be. I mean, like, if you really think about it. And then I also think that the word and the concept of respect is misunderstood. I mean, it's sort of like, you think like you can intimidate somebody and that's respect. I mean, there's a difference between fear and respect. And I don't know if we need to really get too far into that, but I think it just gets thrown around a lot. Like I feel disrespected. And when I say that, I'm saying that as somebody that's not currently angry about something that just happened to me right now.
Sure.
So, but we can go back to another story where that kid was drinking in my studio, and that idea of being disrespected and my ego was exactly why I got mad. So I'm not saying that stuff doesn't affect me. I wish it didn't, but like that incident that we talked about where I told the kid in the studio to not do something, he agreed. I turned around and he started doing it again. That idea of like, you know, I showed him respect. Why isn't he showing me respect back?
Sure.
And then my ego not letting me be able to control my emotions and shit really set me down the path of getting pissed about that situation. So I know we always do this where we say, hey, this is not, we're saying these words, but it doesn't mean like
in the moment
we have a 100% handle on this shit.
Of course not. Yeah. Just today on the drive down here was such a test of that for me. And it's in a small but in a large way where something was thrown out the window of a car, which fucking bounced off two other things and smashed into mine. And like I said, normally I would think about how I was going to get away with murder this morning. Like, how am I going to pull this off?
Yeah.
And then just the fact that I don't know if I was in shock or what, but I had that time to breathe and like kind of take it in, like what really matters. Like that wasn't personal. He doesn't know who the fuck I am. That probably wasn't even on purpose. That probably flew out the back of his truck.
Out of his truck.
Yeah. So like, but I was able to be aware of that enough to kind of think it all the way through. You were mentioning something just now about that example with the guy who came in and, and how you don't necessarily have a handle on it completely right now, but you understand it. What were we saying right before that? I was just leading to it. It's fucking tricky to talk about this, Kay, because I don't want to like.
Oh, we were talking about it before that. We were talking about how it's a part of the culture, and we're not trying to.
Yeah, it is, and part of me wants to like really tread lightly in how I talk about it, but at the same time, I'd rather be honest in how I feel about it.
No, you should just
because
be honest.
I feel like it's so fucking chump. Like when I really look at it, I don't know if it. Okay, because like back even before I started, like when you and your crew and even some before that, I can see how if you see other cats coming from different areas, you kind of look at all of a sudden now you guys want to fucking write. Now you guys want a crew. Now so it's like this whole pissing contest. Now and then also there was no quick tabs on everybody and like you were able to just connect with somebody immediately and kind of tell them what you think or what you're going to do and threaten them and all that shit. So there was like there was like a lot of time in between crossing paths again, unless it was like in a famous yard or something, before you see them again to like conjure up all these fucking, this is what we'll do, this is what we should do, this is how we're going to go harder, this is how we're going to get them, fucking. And now you can find fucking anybody immediately. At least you know somebody who knows somebody. It doesn't take more than probably half an hour, and you're already sending them a direct message and like letting them know what's up. So I don't know if that has given people a little bit more of a reality check. Like, you can be found, homeboy, quickly. Like, we know your neighbor's fucking sister, whatever the fuck it is. Like, everybody, that there's that separation. I feel like perhaps before it wasn't so easy to, well, see, I'm speaking out of terms and out of line here, because some of the, you know, the biggest beefs back in those days, they could have all been at the same high school. So that might not be accurate. I just feel as though nowadays when this shit happens, I don't know, maybe because I just don't participate in it at all. I just feel like it's less than it's ever been. That those kind of situations, those kind of problems, that perhaps it's more of just, you know, these little things like somebody went over my thing at a yard, you know, my outlines and my throw up. Fuck, I don't even know where I was going with that. Okay. Just to be completely honest about it, I don't care if you just started fucking yesterday or you've been writing for 20 years. I think this shit is fucking chump. I think the whole fucking concept behind all of it is such a waste of fucking time and energy, giving a fuck about shit that doesn't even fucking matter. What is it, the art or the magic of giving a fuck? Like that, you know, I'm sure many people have heard of it or read about it or whatever the fuck, but that's very true. You're investing all this time and energy into giving a fuck about things that have absolutely they hold no weight and no ground in anything you're doing in your life. So how many times have we had an issue with someone and like serious beef over graph shit that was like, this will change our lives. This will change the world.
Zero.
The world will be different tomorrow if we fucking pursue this. I feel like you got too much fucking time on your hands if this is an issue. And if it is such an issue, fuck, I don't know. I just feel like there's a way to resolve it quickly. Stop fucking with that spot. That spot probably anybody could walk up to anyway. Go somewhere else. Do something fucking dope. Go rock something that's going to be sent across country. You know, hit some steel. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
But like, I just don't understand how there's even enough time to even fucking be concerned with that. Not only that, let's take graph off the table and just talk about having an issue with someone, just conflict. It's like drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die type of thing. Like that shit that we hear. It's like, they may fucking already be over it. They're not even thinking about it. And you're still fucking fired up 6 months later. Like, fuck, I can't believe they, you know, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter if it's graph, relationships, someone did you dirty, whatever the fucking case is. I don't know. Obviously there's people out there that deserve to be dealt with. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I'm just saying overall when we talk about beef and graffiti, most times it's rather fucking petty.
Yeah, most times it's like what happened with this guy. As you know, he went over something. Oh, right. He did it in a way that was in a line with the guidelines. So he probably assumed that he was. I mean, people say it all the time. Oh, you got to know the rules of the game. It's this over this and this over that.
Yeah.
And so, but he followed the rules, but this other guy doesn't care. Mm-hmm. You know, it's his spot. So, I mean, but at the end of the day, like you said, it's so like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
You're not going to get anything out of it long term. So another thing that you mentioned was like the amount of wasted energy that happens during beef is like all those times when you get all fucking heated up and you're physically feeling anxiety and stress or anger or whatever, like all that stuff is just not good for you.
Yeah.
So I remember like having issues with people and I would reflect like at the end of the day and I'd be like, God, you know, I fucking wasted a whole day thinking about this shit. Like a whole fucking day I've been stressed out, putting my body through this fucking, because it's bad for you. Yeah. Like it's really physically bad for your actual health, like not just mental health. Like
it could kill you.
Yeah, it could give you if you're fucking living in that state of tension and pissed, anxious, you know, it can take a toll on your health.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like something that doesn't almost never comes up, but it's like, it's true. Fucking read about it. So when you're allowing yourself to be a part of this thing, you know, you're losing it in a sense. Cause I remember all those feelings that would just wash over you. Like as soon as you walk into a yard and there's a line drawn through your shit and some fucking dude's name above it. And there's just fucking, and then you could spend like, even in my adult years, and I'm not going to get into too much detail about it, but I was part of a production and I happened to go over somebody and they got upset, but it was like, fuck, dude, the person managing the production told me to paint there, and that's where I painted.
Yeah.
And it caused problems. And so pictures are popping up on the internet of this guy going over me, and he's posting, oh, you went over the wrong whatever. And so people are sending me messages, why did so-and-so do this? And I'm like,
just fuel
I don't give a fuck why he did it. Like, go ask him. I don't care if the piece is gone. I don't care if the guy went over. I don't give a fuck.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. Quit sending me these messages. Like, I'm not going to participate in this he said, she said shit. I don't remember how long ago it was, but I was like 40 years old. Yeah. Like, dude, you really think I give a fuck about this right now? Come on. I got bills. I got a fucking mortgage, dude. The fuck?
Exactly.
I got so much more shit. I'm building a business. I got, I'm running another business. Like, do you think I give a fuck that somebody's posting about me on the internet? Like, dude, when you're younger, it's a little different, but you can still think this same way when you're younger. You don't have to wait until you're older to have this perspective. I mean, you can be like, I see, okay, that was a spot that, a lot of people saw. I thought I was going over it properly. And just fucking reach out to the person. Just be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to fucking buff the spot. You go back, do it. Yeah. And let's just fucking squash this.
Yeah, move on.
Yeah, just leave it. Like, I mean, how much less anxiety would you have in your life if that shit was just not on the table anymore?
100%. I was thinking about that. Like, best case scenario of any kind of fight or any beef. I don't even think I rarely have even said that word because it just sounds so fucking stupid. But I literally, and the best case scenario in a fist fight after it's over and I got mine and and it came out in my favor, I was still questioning. I was still feeling like, fuck, dude, it didn't have to get to that. And then there would always be some kind of backlash. Somebody else I know would get involved, or you get all those people fucking riled up. The ones that you think the ones who want to keep continuing this fucking drama are bored. The ones that are fucking fight, and all gathered around they're fucking bored as shit. And it's like, you really got to think about the company you keep. Like, who did I really wake up wanting to fucking attack this dude? Or was this three of the homeboys who showed up and tried to fucking rile me up? Like, first thing, we can't let that fucking slide. We got to get that fucking. So just like, think about the company you keep, because I know I wish it was just that easy to say, to do as it is to say, of course. Because if it was, then when I was younger, it would have been that much easier to walk away and say, fucking kick rocks. Fuck you guys.
Yeah.
I can't, I still haven't even like dove in deep enough to differentiate how much of that was my decision and how much was fueled by those fucking waving the fucking towel around in a circle. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop hyping me up to do this fucking whack shit and hype me up to do something positive about it. You're right, dude. Yeah, best case scenario. I mean, fuck. There's people that we know today that are doing life and people that we've buried. And it all stemmed from some petty ass fucking bullshit that escalated and just got out of control.
Yeah.
None of it ever went somewhere, man, because of all that fucking beef and all that fighting, look where we're at now. Like, has anybody ever said that shit?
There's an exception to every rule, but I've literally never heard anything good come out of that. And I actually wanted to get to that. That was one of the things that I wanted to talk about. It's very, very important to consider the more shit escalates, the more shit can really turn into something that is people can act out of character. And I'm not even going to touch on anything specific, but, you know, like you said, legit, real violence, prison terms, death, all of this shit has happened. And sometimes it happens from people that you don't expect to go down that path. Like there's people that you're like, oh, you know, I'm not fucking with that person because they have a reputation. But then there have been situations over the history of this thing where you're like, I didn't think it would turn to that.
Yeah.
You know? And you got to understand, like, those feelings that we're talking about, those like anger, anxiety, and all that shit takes a toll. It has like a fucking buildup effect, you know? So you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Like, even if you think like, oh, that guy ain't gonna do shit, like things can escalate and put all this bullshit about like, oh, you know, I'm being a chump if, you know, thinking about that stuff. Like I stand for mine. Like, yeah, stand up for yourself. Like, don't let anybody push you around. We're not saying that, but evaluate what's important is, I think, really the key thing that we're talking about. And at the same time, if this isn't your cup of tea, then go do a YouTube search. There's plenty of other shit out there for you. Yeah, right. This is what we talk about. So, I mean,
absolutely right. You know, and yeah, I'm not in any way am I telling people to not stand their fucking ground, stand up for yourself. Don't let anybody push you around. Know what's right. I'm talking about those who are starting fucking serious problems and drama within their crews, within the graph culture, within their neighborhoods for petty fucking shit that means nothing.
Yeah, it's not even necessary to feed into because it's so petty. I mean,
you would hope that anybody you would even throw this topic at, well, not anybody, of course, wouldn't even be talking about it. You would hope that the majority of people who hear this type of shit, like, yeah, of course, yeah, fuck all that petty shit. What's the point? Why? But it's not. There's a lot of people who do fucking care, and I don't know if I wanted. So again, if I got to base it on anything that I've been through, it's all going to be in my younger days, either because not that I hadn't been angry in the past couple of years, because if something did happen to me or my girl or anybody around me, like, oh, I wanted to fucking go to the extreme to make sure that they were handled. There's no question about that. However, it wasn't necessarily the best way to go about shit. And only now do I realize that, because not only do you subject yourself and everybody around you to the possibility of who knows what, you put everybody in that kind of place where they can't, they don't want to invest time and energy into you because you're a wild card and there's no telling what you'll do. So I don't know if we want to bring it all back. Obviously, it's not the best course of action. Now, if somebody's coming at you, yeah, you fucking handle them, no question. Do what you got to do, but don't be the guy who's going at them just because they fucking, again, just for some petty shit. That's just my opinion, But fuck, I stand behind you. I think that shit is chump. It's so counterproductive. It's. Imagine if we were to take all that energy and put it towards creating a new style. Put all that fucking energy towards understanding somebody. Fucking, how they say, like, listen to understand, don't listen to respond. Like, really fucking listen to this dude and understand what it is that got him so fucking hot in the first place. Try to get to the roots of the situation, and man, I bet more times than not you'll figure it out and fucking be able to at least be even keeled. You don't gotta be fucking homeboys, but you guys could just like respect each other's program and just shit. I've seen that shit happen inside too. I know we had a conversation about somebody that you know. I've seen this happen plenty of times where, meaning you're incarcerated, right? You're in places where the whole fucking foundation of every single day is based on respect and respecting someone's program, respecting where they live at, respecting their area, respecting their table, that's all people fucking do in there, function. And there's ways to make it work. There's ways to live fucking civil where you don't just let things crack for fucking nothing. There's always a reason. Most times for whatever rules are set in place, there's always that rule has been broken. There's a reason for it. It's not just some petty, just because I feel like my feelings are fucking hurt. There's always something else, Anyway, that's it. You can kind of harness that same principle and put it towards our graph culture and all the things. I don't know, man. I could go on about that too. That's like a whole nother thing. If only there was like some more of like a consequence that was an immediate consequence to some of the simple ways that we interact with each other, the program would be run a bit differently. Now, that's something we could touch on at a later time, but it's interesting to think of how much of that is, like I was saying, how that entire world is run by that, about respect and not like starting shit with somebody else and not being crossed out in a sense, your line being crossed in general, in all the ways. And because of like a set of principles and rules that are in place and the consequences behind fucking breaking those rules, fucking things run rather smoothly for the most part in a lot of places. I'm not speaking for everywhere, but from what I've seen. So it'd be interesting to kind of have those same things set in place within the graffiti culture, how that would run. I haven't put enough thought into it to even keep going, but you know what I'm saying.
I think I know what you mean. I mean, there's some kind of checks and balances. So like, let's say you walk into a yard and you see something, your piece is slashed and so somebody's name. What ends up happening is the beef starts, or they started that beef, and then you start slashing their stuff. But no, I mean, I don't know that it, and from my experience, I didn't try to get to the bottom of why that beef started, with the exception of that one story about the crew, because like I immediately knew why that happened. I was like, fuck, they thought that I did this and I didn't. So phone call was made, I went to get to the bottom of it. But when like an individual, I just saw like, or somebody was like, hey, so-and-so slashed you at fucking such and such yard. Oh, fuck that. Yeah. And then you just jump into action. So like, I don't like saying advice. Advice is kind of lame, but like a practical suggestion on maybe instead of, okay, scenario, you walk into a yard or you walk into a spot, your shit's slashed. Before you fire back, take a little bit of time, reach out to a couple people and see if you can figure out why that happened before you respond. And that was like what we just talked about in the last episode. It's some philosopher. I should have fucking memorized who the fuck said this, because it's a really profound thing. I can't even remember the goddamn quote, but it's like between stimulus and your response is a space. Yeah, sure. So like take that space when the stimulus, like the fucking guy slashes you, and then your response. In between that, what if you just jumped on Instagram? Hey, you know, fucking Jimmy Jimbo 227, he just slashed my shit. This motherfucker is popping up every podcast.
Fucking Jimmy.
Do you know this guy?
Yeah.
I've seen you up with him. Oh yeah, I know him. I just want to find out what the fuck this is. Yeah. Let's say you did that and they were like, oh, you capped me at such and such yard. And you remember going over the spot and it was all fucked up. Mm-hmm. You know, there was just tags and shit all over the place. Yeah. It's possible that issue could just be resolved right then. Just say, hey, listen, the shit was all dissed. We've talked about, or I don't know if we talked about this, but I made a video about choosing a spot at a yard a little while back. And one of the suggestions that I made was like, since everybody has a fucking phone with a camera on them, if you go to a yard or anywhere and you're going to go over something that has tags all over it, just take a quick flick of it before you go over it. So let's say that scenario happens and they say, oh, you capped me at this yard. Sure. And you're like, oh, no, I remember that. Like, here's a flick. This is what it looked like when I got there. Mm-hmm. Then that beef is over. And you're not a chump for working it out. You're not being a pussy or whatever stupid fucking word you want to throw in there. You know, you're just getting to the bottom of what it is before all of this energy is spent and all of this work is ruined over what could have been resolved over a simple fucking direct message saying, hey, this is a misunderstanding. What you know, let's just figure out how to get past it.
And I realize it's so much easier for us to say that right now because it wasn't more than a year ago that something like this happened to me, something that I had done, and the way that somebody went over it was so fucking. Let me put it to you this way: I was ready to handle the situation quickly. Like that was my first fucking thought. Then after a little while of kind of rethinking that situation, taking that moment between that what was it? Between the
stimulus and your response.
Between the stimulus and the response. Like, and the conclusion I came up with was a beautiful one. And the way it was executed, I feel like was the best outcome. Let me just say that. And it wasn't a violent one. It was an artistic one. So I thought that was fresh. Another thing I'll say is every single time that I can recall anything that really stands out in my life as a moment of rivalry, of some kind of crazy shit that was going to happen, or I was threatened, or any of those things, I was the fucking knucklehead who started it somehow. Every fucking time. Maybe there was like 1 or 2 times where, yeah, you just walk into a yard and you see a fucking whatever on your set, and then you go from there. But anything that was like life-threatening or that could have gotten really bad real quick, I started. I was a fucking knucklehead. I had no reason to even fucking get that going in the first place. There was no substantial issue behind it besides me just being a jackass. So if I had any kind of recommendation for anyone, don't be a fucking jackass. Don't be a knucklehead. Think about what the fuck are you doing before you do, like, I guess anything in life. Just think about it before you do it. Take a minute. It's amazing how much different your entire life will be if you take a minute to think about it before you act.
I'm trying to remind myself daily just to take that space to decide how to feel about it. Because, like, I don't like getting pissed off ever, really. I mean, I don't know if some people may like it, but I fucking hate it. Whenever I get pissed, I'm like, I don't want to be pissed. Like, so like, I'm trying to remind myself to take that space, like as soon as something happens, there's, sometimes it's like a split second, or as you're reading something, or as this is happening, that anger could come up upon you before you even know it. But like, if you can at least be aware that there is a space between those two things, and that's anything from your response to how you feel about it, there's a valuable amount of shit that can be taken care of in that space to where things won't escalate into something that was more than what you wanted. So,
well said.
Is there anything else you think we could that would need to?
I'm trying to think of a way that we could kind of go back to that initial question. Had we skipped over too much too quick that he didn't get anything out of it? I just feel if we've heard everything that there is involved, and there's not some like elaborate backstory involving like someone's little sister and like you hooking up with this girl and like all that other type of shit that can always be involved in a situation, and it's just that one back and forth, I'd say put that fucking memory in your pocket and move on and get a new spot. I'm saying go catch some new spots.
Yeah.
You're not running from shit. Catch a new spot with the fresher fucking set and a cooler style. I don't fucking know. Do something bigger, maybe higher. Be careful, but fucking get it.
Yeah, and I have to assume that not everybody is like so stubborn that if you didn't participate, let's say somebody has beef with you and you don't know why, and you're like, what, I'm not going to even fuck with this. How long do you think that person will keep dissing your shit without you retaliating? If you're like, I'm just not going to fucking play into this. Like, you went over my piece, whatever. I'm going to fucking do something somewhere else. There's walls everywhere.
Yeah.
I have to believe that the longer you participate in it, the longer that it's going to keep going. And if you don't participate in it at all,
let them burn out.
If you ignore it, it'll go away. I would have to assume that most people aren't so fucking stubborn that they're going to spend years capping your shit.
Right.
But they certainly will if you're actively capping their shit, because you're fucking scratching that scab off every time. If Absolutely. You're just like, fuck it,
Yeah. And verbally as well. I mean, if you're not willing to physically, move forward on this, don't be singing about it either. If you're not, doing something on the wall, if you don't want to face this person, don't think that just because you're not doing those things, but you are fucking running your mouth somewhere in the streets in the city, that's not going to come back at you in the same form, in the same way. So if you're going to close the fucking book on that whole thing, close the fucking book. Someone brings it up, like you were saying, other people, but didn't you know that did you catch that scribe in that fast food spot? He got you there too. Like, all right, just like don't even fucking feed in. I am not even hearing you.
Well, that's exactly how I handled it.
Exactly.
I was just like,
That's what's up.
When I said something like that and they came back, but this, and that,
Yeah.
I straight up told them, I said, I'm not having this conversation. I got too much shit to think about, and this is not happening. Yeah. And that was where it ended. And they're like, oh, I was just trying to let you know. I'm like, I appreciate it, but this is where this is where I get off, man. I'm not doing it. No fucking way, man. I know. Fuck, like, dude.
These are the kind of stories that we're going to tell when we're old man on the porch rocking in a
I
chair.
am an old man on a porch right now.
Yes. This is the kind of shit you just think about when, you just laugh with other crewmates and other friends. Like, I can't believe I even fucking gave a shit about that.
It's funny? And there was this guy on Instagram, and he sent me a message, or he commented on one of my photos, and he said, hey, remember when we used to beef and we ran into each other at Venice, and I kind of flexed on him, and, we sort of resolved it right then. Yeah. And then we went and ate McDonald's together. He sends me that message, and
That's
I was like, yeah, man, this is dumb kid shit. You know, we were just dumb and stupid, and, we're young and stupid, or whatever I said. Yeah. And he actually apologized, or I don't know if he like straight up apologized, but like, I don't remember. It was like kind of an apology. Sure. I don't remember what he said, but he was like taking responsibility for his part in it. And I was like, dude, like, I'm not thinking about that shit anymore. Like, I remember all of it, and I remember all of the shit that happened over the course of our beef, but I don't have any ill feelings towards him at all. Like, I'm like, whatever. Like, I still see flicks of some of my pieces that he dissed, but it's like, what?
Isn't that interesting?
Whatever, man. It's all good now.
Yeah. How cool is that? And how what a trip it is to think, because I always think back to like stories my pops would have told me about, fist fights that they would get into. So they'd have an issue with somebody, they take it out back. You get in a little fist fight, you shake it off, you shake hands, you go have a beer together. Like, whatever happened to that type of shit? Yeah. Like now, if somebody touched your daughter in an inappropriate way, they need to go fucking feet first in a wood chipper. I get that, and I would stand behind that all day long. But when it comes to this type of shit, why can't it just be hatched out? Like, and just take a walk and like, you know what? Fuck, I can't believe we've been dissing each other. So our sets would look sick together. Like, let's go catch one. Like, I don't know. It'd just be a beautiful thing to see that kind of shit happen. You know what we did not really cover, and you can cut this out maybe. Wasn't there a time where we just battle? Wasn't there ever a fucking time? Like, aren't we all so hell-bent on, like, the culture and, like, what graph represents and how you should carry yourself? Didn't it start with battling the other crews and showing them what you're fucking made of? And, like, flexing in some dope ways, not so much fucking shooting up their fucking house and trying to kill and fucking wipe them off out of the city. I don't know.
That's something that I want to. It's an episode that I have written down. There's people that I do want to talk to about, because that was there was like epic fucking battles, of writers, and then there was crew battles. There's so many cool things that have happened. I mean, I'm not super educated on this, but like the K2S WCA battle, where like all these people from WCA showed up and only Prime from K2S showed up, and he was like, fuck it, we're battling anyway. Yes. And Prime did the dopest fucking ground-breaking piece, it was like, that right there, that is the kind of legacy shit that happens with battles. Yeah. Slashing other people's shit. That's not there. It's forgotten. Do you have any stories of like, remember like you slashed everybody's
all
shit?
Forgotten.
But like if you took it to the wall, and like those are the kind of stories that people talk about. I mean, and it's like legacy shit. That's shit that like that stays in the culture, like slashing people's stuff and capping them and calling people toys. Nobody talks about that anymore.
Yeah, maybe at the party this Friday, and then they forget about it by Saturday.
Yeah, so
that's about as far as it goes.
Battle.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, we definitely should definitely crack that open on another session with someone at the table that would be perfect for that.
Yeah.
that type of topic.
All
Yeah,
right.
man, I think we beat that fucking horse silly.
Yeah. So do what you got to do, but
Yeah, just do the next right thing for your crew, and what's gonna improve the situation, not add a level of fucking chaos to everything.
yeah, take a minute to observe that space
Yes,
between
sir.
your reaction and the shit. Anyway, all right, we're gonna move on, and we used to have this like wrap up shit. Like you would say something, and then what was
Well, that's a fucking wrap.
hello?
Yeah, no, I just ultimately fucking grateful to continue doing this, and all who are supporting us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all very much. We really appreciate all the positive feedback, and we also appreciate the negative feedback. We like hearing your thoughts. All right, we're out of
Until
here.
the next. All right. Peace.
Peace.